Prime Minister Modi has taken to X to pay tribute to tribal icon Birsa Munda on the occasion of his birth anniversary. This comes ahead of the launch of welfare schemes worth Rs 24,000 crores for tribal groups. Prime Minister Modi has written on the platform X respectful tribute to Lord Birsa Munda ji on his birth anniversary. Best wishes for families from across the country on this special occasion of Tribal Pride Day. My colleague Akshat with us on the broadcast. Akshat, if you can take our viewers through the significance of this tweet that has been put out by the Prime Minister.
He has taken to X to basically wish on the birth anniversary of Birsa Munda, who is the tribal icon, and in a bid to woo tribal voters also ahead of the Lok Sabha election next year. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be launching the Pradhan Mantri, particularly vulnerable tribal groups development mission at the birthplace of tribal icon Birsa Munda today. And on the occasion of Jan Jatiya Gaurav Divas, he will also be launching several schemes for the tribals. He will launch a 24,000 crore project aimed at improving the social economic condition of the marginalized group, and he will also launch a Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra along with the releasing the 15th installment of 18,000 crore under the PM Kisan scheme. According to the sources, there are 75 marginalized group in 18 states and union territories living in more than 22,000 villages across 220 districts, and these tribes stay in scattered, remote and inaccessible habitations. The Prime Minister will reach Ranchi today in his with senior BJP leaders he will also be doing a road show of nearly 10 kilometers, and then he will reach Raj Bhavan. So, of course, to woo the tribal voters ahead of the Lok Sabha election, he will be launching all these schemes for the tribal people in order to provide better access to education and healthcare sector.
Okay, Akshat, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. We have with us Yuvraj Pokharna, senior journalist, as well as Himanshu Bhatt joining us on the broadcast. Let me begin with Yuvraj, if I may. Yuvraj, thank you so much for joining us on NewsX. If you can take our viewers through, how do you perceive this development by Prime Minister Modi for the tribal people? He's headed to Jharkhand to launch schemes worth Rs 24,000 crores, which will focus on the development of tribals across the nation, but also particularly in this heavy tribal belt of India. How do you view these developments?
Good morning, Devika. As we celebrate the third edition of the Jan Jatiya Divas, let us not be cynic and let us not be political about everything. Are not the tribals marginalized? The last I remember that, as per the census, they constitute 12 crore of the Indian population, and out of them 90% are living in the remote village areas, and only 10% of the tribals, the marked tribals as per the census, live in the city areas. In the national literacy rate, which is somewhere about 73% for you, me, for us, but for the tribals the literacy rate is barely 59%. And it is not me, it is not the census who is speaking this thing loud and clear. I remember there was some Debar commission constituted in 1960s or 61 probably, and it desperately highlighted, marked, accentuated the need for the basic necessities that the tribals need. That includes food, shelter, education. But from 60s till 2023, nobody, took a heed of that. And today, when Modi ji has been doing something for the tribal, has been, working day in and day out for the tribal, I do not see it with the prism of politics. Yes, it is social welfareism for me. And if I talk about the tally of the seat count, last but not the least, if I speak about the numbers, so BJP has successfully increased its tally. Out of the 47 ST seats that we have in the Lok Sabha, BJP has clinched 31 seats in 2019 election as compared to the 27 seats that it had in 2014. So yes, it will, help BJP gain enormously in the tribal belt, not only in Jharkhand but across India. So that's my limited intervention.
All right, Yuvraj, I'll come back to you in just a moment. Himanshu, but we've had a conversation about this earlier as well. What do you make, once again, of what is being done by the Prime Minister, and what sort of a message do you think is now finally being sent out?
It's a very clear-cut message, according to me. See, if India wants to be a developed country by a certain phase of time, a certain space of time, you have to bring about all-round development. And in bringing out all-round development, you have to have sections of the people in the country which are left behind has to be taken on par first. And these tribals are one of such things. The second one is Pasmanda Muslims. See, these are the two things which are going to weigh very, very heavily as far as the socio-economic political context are concerned. And when you talk of tribal, when you have about 10% seats marked as a tribal seats, what will you do? Any political party will want those seats. But instead of going directly, if you really socially uplift them, give them a welfare measure which they do really require, instead of making big hue and cry for the Jativadi reservations, if you quietly work for the upliftment in the social welfare of the tribals, what will happen is these people will be on par with the rest of the India, the rest of the population. And once they become on par, then the question of reservation doesn't come in. Now today, you need these reservations and you need to uplift tribals because they are without the basic necessities which the rest of the country is getting. So my understanding is very, very clear. First, bring them on par on the basic necessities of life. Once that is done, things will improve automatically. If you have a connectivity directly in a remote village in Dang's district or in some remote village in Jharkhand or Chhattisgarh, tribal areas, that means you get connected and such misspread of things, such misspread of disinformation doesn't go. But what unfortunately in our country, what has happened is they also have been used as a vote bank. So every time an election comes, people use them as vote banks and actually do nothing for them. So when such things happen, you have to look at it at a prism of development. And if you want to become a grown-up, developed economy by 2047, it's really the time that you start, looking after all sections of your society. It's looking after the weaker member of the family. And that's what you got to do. Yes, Devika.
Right, absolutely. Yuvraj Pokhara, what do you make of what Himanshu Bhatt has said as far as the messaging behind all of this is concerned? The schemes are, of course, not being launched in any of the poll-bound states, but the fact that there are elections, there is a significant tribal population in Madhya Pradesh, and, of course, the state Jharkhand, where the scheme is being launched. That coincidence is not lost on any of us, but ultimately, at the end of the day, something great may come out of these schemes.
Devika, for one, I am in with Mr. Himanshu Bhatt, since what he said is completely factual. But if we have to speak factually on numbers, so I don't think that there are much seats, tribal seats from these states. So last I checked, there are 6 tribal seats from Madhya Pradesh and barely 4 seats from Chhattisgarh and 5 seats from Jharkhand. So this messaging is not about 10 to 15 seats. But as Mr. Himanshu said, it is about the upliftment of the weaker section of the society. If you have, noticed that PM Modi has started giving tribal gifts made by the local handicrafts and artisans of the ST communities, and he is gifting these things to the foreign dignitaries. Second, the Republic of India is dominated or is, ruled by a tribal woman as the president, Mrs. Draupadi Murmu. So it is about upliftment of the classes which has been deprived from the last 70 years. And everybody from a successive government, be it NDA, be it UPA, has been speaking on and on about upliftment, Jan Jati, Jangal Jeevan Jal, but nobody did something remarkable that PM is now embarking upon. So yes, for me, it is very culturally significant.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.